morning, everyone. It's your boy Gsluke here with our round 2 live stream for the Players Championship. Gonna get you guys ready for all of your betting action today with any Underdog Prize Picks props, of course, with any matchups or 3-balls that you guys are looking at as well. We've got a little coffee in the cup. Actually, just picked it up over there from Starbucks. So again, waking up over here, also tracking some of the early scoring that we've got. So any deep dives that you guys want over there on any bets or props, feel free to go ahead and fire those down in the chat. Even if you don't have anything ready for me right off the bat, say hi as you guys are filing into the live stream, and let's get after it out there for today. And I guess the first thing we'll start with before we look at averages, weather out there throughout the rest of the day, is how the scoring looks here early in the morning, because the only thing better than trying to figure out what's going to happen for the next day is actually getting to see the data ourselves. And what I was looking at with some of these early scores is that it looks like the first few holes on the front 9 in particular are going to be especially scoreable. And that wasn't necessarily that surprising, I would say, just because the front 9 pins are a whole lot easier than what you had for yesterday. But as soon as you get to that back 9, the scoring gets a little bit harder. Now, it's not so hard where you can't go out there and make birdies, right? Like Rory, Xander, I believe both went out there and birdied number 1. Rory had like a 5-footer for birdie set up on hole 2. So you're going to have some guys that still get some scoring done on the first half there, but 12 is a very difficult pin location. 13 is brutally difficult. 14, an easier pin, but it is a much more difficult hole. It's a 500-yard par 4 with water and moguls down the right side. This front side, I could see somebody going like -3, something like that. Back 9, maybe -2, because, you know, you get a few birdies out throughout the first few holes. Maybe you birdie 16, right? That's a reachable par 5. 17 is not that bad either, but every other hole in the back 9, I mean, 14, 15 is not an easy one. 18 is a brutally difficult pin location to where I think it's going to be easier scoring out there today, but I don't think it's going to be like a -2 scoring average. You know, something around maybe a 1 under par scoring average overall is kind of what I'm expecting. And if we take a look at the early morning scoring, it looks easy, right? The first few holes, and then it ramped up on holes 4 and 5 in the front 9. Now, to go back to that pin sheet, kind of figure out why that would be the case. You know, 4 is a pretty tricky pin, I would say, over there on that top right shelf. And 5 is a 480-yard par 4. So I guess not a massive surprise that those 2 holes would be playing difficult, especially with the dew that you have on the ground. Now, I can't tell if you guys can see, there's a lot of dew and fog on those windows there behind me. I guess if I went over this way, there's a little bit more fog on the windows that are over there in that corner, but that's why it's playing harder in the morning, right? I mentioned that on the Ship It Nation stream that I did earlier. That is going to be the case. And I saw a few comments on that live stream, by the way, from some slappies that I guess didn't agree with that. You know, let's check back in 4 hours, right? And see who's right about those conditions. I would say with almost pure certainty over there for today that it's only going to get easier as the day goes on. Just like you had out there for round number 1, it's going to get warmer as the day goes on. As you can see in this forecast right here, let's get over here to the HRRR, so it's maybe a little bit more accurate. It's going to get warmer. It's going to be sunny the entire day. And because you don't have that cloud cover out there, all of that dew, all of that fog that you can see behind me right now, I'm only a few miles out there from the golf course, is going to evaporate. And when that happens, the rough doesn't play nearly as penal as what it was before. So to go back to these averages to show you why that's important, right? Hole 4 is a short par 4, but it is a very difficult fairway to hit. The reason why you had a double bogey or worse there, right? No birdies throughout the first, 3 groups that have gone through that hole, is because if you miss the fairway there, you have no chance to go through that pin location. 5 is a long par 4, deep rough, a really hard fairway to hit as well over there on that front 9. That's why it's playing a little bit harder this morning. And, you know, it's a small sample size, so these holes aren't going to play as difficult as what you see right there. But even if we compare like the easier holes from yesterday, like 2, right, played 0.3 under. Today, only 0.2 under so far. On the back 9, 11 played 0.19 under. Today, a little bit easier, right, at 0.27 under par. You're going to see a few holes play easier because of those pin locations, but you're still going to have some of those really difficult ones out there as well. So we have a few more people still to tee off here in the morning. In fact, let me sort this by the holes that they're through, so I have a good measure for who's still to tee off. So we've still got, let's see, probably like 10 groups the tee off over here in the AM wave. So maybe you could try and snag some fades for some of these late AM guys. But what I personally did is I faded some guys that were going off a little bit earlier. I took some overs on strokes, some unders on birdies for guys that had that early morning tee time. Which, speaking of, one of them was Denny McCarthy. So let me do a double check on how he's doing right now. Yeah, looks like no birdies through his first 5 holes. So hopefully he doesn't birdie 16. That's going to be a really good chance for him. Hell, even 15 is not a terrible chance either. If he gets maybe at most 1 birdie, I'd say over here on this front 9, then I'm feeling decent, I'd say. Not great about it, feeling decent heading into his backside there. But another thing to note over here with these conditions is that it's going to get a little bit windier this afternoon. So I don't know if it's going to be the full same 2-shot difference that you had for yesterday. That, along with the fact that it's not as cold this morning, makes me think that, this morning it might play to like a half a stroke under par scoring average, maybe a stroke under par. I think the PM wave is going to play like a stroke and a half under par, right? Not like the 2.5 under par. If it's going to be a 2-stroke difference, right? It'd have to play like 2.5 strokes under par to have that same sort of difference. That's just not going to happen with this kind of golf course. You could give them perfect conditions and they wouldn't play to a -2.5 scoring average with all the water and all the really tricky greens that you have around the TPC Sawgrass Stadium course. So it'll be easier, I'd say, as the day goes on, but don't think it's going to be like a -3 scoring average out there in the afternoon. That would be overdoing it a little bit, in my opinion. In terms of the averages from yesterday, these were as of the finish of play last night. So there were a few guys that finished up their round this morning that could have changed these around a little bit. But your birdie average was just under 3.7 per round. Your bogey average was just about 3.5 per round. And you can see the fairway and green and regulation averages towards the bottom as well. Let's go over here to Prize Picks. Let me see if there's anyone down in chat yet. Say hi if you guys haven't already, by the way, and hit me with any props you want to deep dive. What's going on, JT North? You said, love my work. Let's have a day. I appreciate that. What's going on, Nutra? Did I take anything down yesterday? You had some really good stances overall. So I didn't play any round 1 showdown. It's not really my shtick, but a decent start to the week, Nutra. So we'll have to see if we can continue it going forward. And you said you appreciate the value that I share with us of free or not free. Yeah, I try to give out as much as I can here on the streams, right? I just like to be helpful, right? I mean, I was new to PGA DFS once. I wish I had a channel that was helping me guide myself through the conditions every single day. Until I did so, I had to figure it out for myself, right? I had to work, grind, learn the sport, right? You're not an expert right away at anything that you do. And because I've had 4 or 5 years experience doing that at this point, it's time to give back, right? Trying to, give that knowledge on to other people. So obviously here for a reason. I appreciate the kind words and everything. And let's get it out here for the next few days. So there's one prop still up here that I actually took. It was one of the pairings that I took with that Denny McCarthy fade. And based on conditions that I'm seeing so far, I still feel pretty good about this prop. So it was an over on Ludwig Aubert pars or better, which if you guys have seen the Caesars William Hill board at this point, he is -140 for his under at 2.5 bogey. So, 2.5 bogey line, by the way, is the same exact thing as a pars or better line, right? It's just the inverse of the other. So a 2.5 bogey line, right, is the same thing as a 15.5 par or better line. So, if he's -140 for the under at 2.5 bogeys, that essentially means that he's also -140 for the over at 15.5 pars or better. So you've got a little bit of plus EV value, I'd say, over here on this sort of spot, but also a player that really hit the ball well yesterday. In fact, I'm going to go ahead and bring up some of the shots gained metrics real quick so I can show you guys exactly how he got the job done. And we're only going to look at round 1 because he, of course, has not started his round 2 quite yet. And what you'll see is that he's got a decent stat profile, right? It's not the kind of one that wows you. He didn't post that wow kind of score, but he gained off the tee. He was okay over there on approach, and his short game was just average at the very best. This isn't the kind of stat profile where you're like, oh, wow, like he's not going to gain 5 strokes putting again. Oh, he got super lucky around the green, that sort of thing. It's just a very typical Ludwig Aubert, right? He was on the harder side of conditions over there yesterday morning and still shot -1. Now, he had a lot of birdies and bogeys on the card. We're going to need him to clean that up just a little bit to go out there and cover for us. But, he went over by 0.5, or went under, I should say, by 0.5 pars or better yesterday. Now has the better side of things. I would argue could be a lot better out there with his ball striking. That was his main issue over there for round number 1. He cleans that up. I really like his chances to go out there and cover. So he's a PM wave player, right? So we don't have to worry about the tee time, right? Him starting relatively soon. And I guess we just got to find a pairing for it. And I haven't entered a whole lot, right? I wanted to wait to be able to see some of these averages, see what the golf course was looking like. And oh, God, what did Grazerman do? Back-to-back double bogeys. Sorry, triple, then a double bogey over there for Grazerman. I just kind of want to catch up on these scores, right? Because I mean, look at this. It looks like people are starting to fall apart. I mean, super early, you had some low rounds going. I mean, Doug Gims even 3 over par. I mean, you still have some guys under, like Hoffman, Griffin, McCarthy is now 1 over par, actually. They're his first 5 holes. But, I mean, JJ Spawn was like -2 through 2. I know a lot of people are probably like, oh, wow, it's playing so easy this morning. Not really, right? I mean, like Kriyama, it seems like he's playing a relatively easy golf course, but he's got some guys out here struggling a little bit as well. And in fact, I gave Rory that birdie at hole number 2, and look at that, he missed the 5-footer. I've got to say, as somebody that faded him this week, that is just hilarious. It's great to see that he missed that putt. And look, Scotty doing his thing too. So yeah, not surprising to see Scotty going out there and having himself a day. But to update these scoring averages now, I mean, look at this, right? It's now 1.5 over par. Now, these are going to come back down to earth, right? Part of the reason that these are so bad is because of what Grayson has done out there in that front nine, right? Undoubtedly having an impact on these scoring averages, but it's still looking like it's going to play a lot harder over here this morning than what you're going to have as the day goes on. So if we're going to try and find a fade, so we have this Ludwig prop that I've already entered myself, I love for sure. If we're going to try and find a, something to pair up with it, maybe we take one of these AM wave fades because, if anything, I think it's getting harder right now out there, which is kind of weird. Like early this morning, you had all these birdies posted, and I'll admit, I got a little nervous out there about the scoring. I was like, oh, wow, maybe I'm wrong about the fact that the temperature led to it. I don't have that same concern anymore. After seeing some of those scores come in, it looks just like yesterday morning. So let's see. So the birdies, I was looking at some fades here as well. You guys already know I faded Denny McCarthy at 4.5, which hopefully that one keeps pace for us. But the other guys here at 4.5, they had some weaker guys posted earlier. It doesn't look like you have nearly as many lower tier guys. Like maybe a Thomas Dietrich could be worth a fade there at 4.5. Because they don't have some of those other players that they had on there last night, maybe we go to strokes and try and find something to fade over there. I think the scoring average for the PM wave is going to be like a -1.5. AM wave, maybe like -0.5. By the way, even though it's over par right now, I do think it's going to play under par, right? I want to make that fully clear. I think by the time the AM wave ends, it's probably playing like closer to a half a stroke under par. But some of these guys that are here at the later end of the AM wave, like let's find them. A lot of these guys are PM that we have there, like Hadwin, right? He tees off in 4 minutes. So maybe we can't take him for the slip because it's a little bit too soon. But like I'm at Kuchar here at 71.5. If I think the scoring average for this AM wave is going to be like a half a stroke under par, that means he has to have a worse than average round, right? To go out there and cover. Adam Hadwin, right, could have a slightly above average round and still push there at that sort of number. I've got to say the Adam Hadwin one, if you're watching this live and you can get it in right now, that's probably my favorite that we have on the board right now. I'd probably even like that a little bit more than this Thomas Dietrich prop. Main reason for that is Dietrich does have that PMT time. So if conditions do get easier, just like it did yesterday, right, that would kind of be working against us. So for the sake of this live stream, if you guys are in here right this second, you'll be able to catch this. If not, right, you're watching this a little bit after the fact, you're probably not going to be able to play this Adam Hadwin over on strokes, but this is 3x if you combine these two together. And just to check, I don't think they had a line for Hadwin on these books, but yeah, let's see. So nothing over there in Draftkings. Let's double check on Fanduel. They probably won't have them either, but I guess you never know. Let's see, Adam Hadwin, are you up? Nope. So no Adam Hadwin prop either there on either site. So yeah, if we're going to go the first slip here together, we're going to enter a couple here together if we can here in the live stream. It'll be this over on O'Bear pars are better than this over on strokes. Again, 3x payout if you combine those two. Just be quick about it because that is going to get taken off the board rather quickly. Let me catch up on chat. We're going to find another slip to go out there and enter two. Thoughts on Dietrich under 4.5 birdies, fading him in the afternoon. So I like that you're looking at the same sort of stuff that I am there, man. I think that it's in play. I prefer if he was AM wave, let's say he was one of the last few guys out right now, I'd say it's a smash play. I'd say it's like a 60% hit rate sort of thing, maybe even higher over there on that sort of under because he's in the PM wave. And I think there's a chance that it plays significantly easier, right? You saw that out there for yesterday. That makes it a little bit more dicey in my opinion, right? That's why I'm trying to take positive stance plays for my later players because I think if anything, it's going to play easier than what these books are thinking. So I'm okay with it, Mason. It's a lean for sure. I just didn't end up entering it quite yet. Said, any thoughts on Lowry and Hideki at 4.5? You feel like they're going to have some good regression after yesterday? Lowry for sure. Lowry piping it yesterday, especially off the tee. One of the best off the tee players that you had in the entire field. Hideki, he also had that momentum toward the ends of his round, right? He was like +5 through 7 holes or something like that, and then ended up +2 by the end of the day. I believe had 5 birdies on his last 11 holes, something crazy like that. I like both today. And at 4.5 birdies, I don't know if they're like smash plays out there for the over, but I do think that there's solid leans for the over because they are PM. And they're better players than Thomas Dietrich, right? That's also part of the reason that we look at their overs as opposed to their unders. And I just want to see what they have for odds. They might not have them posted. So look at that, right? Hideki was posted. It looks like they took his odds off. Shane Lowry is minus 140 for his over. So, if we're comparing odds, right, trying to find a plus EV lean, like I'm not against Shane Lowry at all. And I would guess that if Shane Lowry, right, was minus 140 over, I know we don't have the actual line over there for Hideki, that Hideki would probably be even more juiced towards the over. And Hideki, I mean, his course history here, I hate to use the last fives and stuff like that, but look at it, right? Last year, he covered this in 3 of his 4 rounds. Round 3, he did not cover. It's crazy how they took that out here to, I guess, make it a little bit misleading. And then he covered that yesterday as well. So, yeah, I'm okay with both of those. In fact, I'm going to leave them in the shopping cart. I like what you're doing there. Thoughts on Underdog for holes 1, 2, and 3? I can't bring up Underdog right now, Mark. I'd have to do it over there on my other device. So let me know what the projections are and what the multipliers are on those, because that'll matter quite a bit. What has happened to Max Homa? He just absolutely sucks. And I've been saying that for months now. It's endearingly because I love Max. He's one of my favorite players out there, one of the best guys that you have out there on tour. But lately, he's been in a slump, and hell, he's even in a slump in his like personal life, his like social media life, right? He's not posting anything, right? He's calling people on Twitter sickos and stuff. He's dealing with some stuff, and it could be off course stuff, right? It could be family stuff, it could be health stuff that he has going on. He'll be back someday. I'll say that pretty confidently about Max Homa. Just not anytime soon. I can't see it happening in the next week or so. But you give him a month or two, maybe we get the old Max Homa back. I at least am hoping for it for sure. Aberg 0.5 over Hovland for the matchup. Yeah, there were actually a couple matchups that look decent. I'm not usually a massive fan of taking them. But yeah, it's the 0.5 matchup, as you mentioned. So Ty would be an under. But Hovland looks kind of broken. Now, I guess the other matchups I was looking at were like AM wave ones. So they did also take those off the board. But they had another one posted. I was really close to taking it, where it was like Scotty versus, I think, JT. And JT was PM wave. That was the only reason I didn't go out there and end up taking Scotty's over, because JT looked absolutely broken yesterday. But yeah, that Obear versus Hovland one, to get back to what you were asking about, I would lean over, especially because Hovland kind of looks broken as well. But Hovland historically, I'm going to put this disclaimer on it because it's important. He's historically one of the most aggressive players that we have in the world, right? And especially when he's out of it, it doesn't really matter. He'll take aim at every single pin. Let's just hope that Hovland doesn't seem to find fire today, because if he does, he might be in for some trouble, because I can see him making 7 birdies, right, if he has his putter. You can see Shane having a way better day as well. Yeah, me too. And I guess if I was choosing between those two, the course history play, I guess, would be Hideki. The form play would be Shane Lowry, right? Lowry's playing better golf than Hideki Matsuyama recently. I guess we could take both of them together, right? I'm not against that sort of thing. It's just that this is a hard course. I like fading guys around TPC Sawgrass just because of how I know how hard this course can play. I've played it before. I shot 110 when I played here, and I'm not proud of that. It's like the only time I've shot triple digits in the last 10 years was over here at this kind of golf course. So I have a lot of respect for people that can go out there and play well here. And I'm okay taking those two, but I do have a little bit of part of me that says taking 2 positive stance plays at a golf course this tough is I don't know, it leaves a little bit of a weird feeling in your stomach, that's for sure. An uneasy feeling, I would say, based on my experience doing this. So I'm kind of going through these. I'm trying to see if I can find another fade that makes sense, because most of these guys are PM wave now. We don't have a whole lot of guys that are still yet to tee off. All right, let's go back to the averages. Let's see, have these updated at all? If they've got easier or harder, maybe it changes our thought process. So yeah, a little bit easier as you would have expected to happen at some point here. But yeah, I mean, 9's not an easy par 5. That finishing stretch to the front 9 isn't going to be much easier. 16 is going to bring the scoring average down a lot, right, because it's the easiest hole by far that you have out here. But 17 too, I actually think 17 will play under par today. 18 is going to play hard. I mean, yeah, scoring average is looking pretty much right where I think it's going to be. I think it's going to end up under par for those AM guys. So, I mean, we could just take these 2 for overs and call it a day. It just kind of feels lazy to do that, though. Let's see. Holes 1 and 3 are all 11.5 strokes. Okay, so that's what, a par. It's go back to the scorecard just to make sure we have this down correctly. I know it's a par 4, 5, and then what, 4? So par 4, 5, and then 3 you have over there at hole number 3. So it's a par 12, obviously, between those 3 different holes. And then you said almost everyone is no multipliers. Okay, that's interesting. I thought it would have been multiplied heavily in one direction or the other, except for Aubert and JT are juiced a little bit under. So to go to holes 1 through 3, right, it's playing under par. So 3 is playing a little bit under. Same thing with guys like hole 2 is only 0.25 under. It was actually a little bit easier yesterday, I would say. I don't know. I feel like those lines are fine, right? Because, I mean, you add these up, it's 0.45 under par between those 3 spots right there. And that's an 11.55, right? So I think that those projections are pretty much spot in line. And yeah, I don't really have a take there, man. If they're even money, maybe you could take some unders, but I don't think that they're massive value or anything. Will the greens firm up as it gets warmer because it looks like they're rolling a bit? They might get a little bit firmer, Sab. That's normally going to happen anyways without any sort of rain. But I don't think it's going to be a drastic difference, right? Like yesterday, it wasn't a drastic difference between the morning and the afternoon, but they were definitely bouncing out a little bit more yesterday afternoon, and the scoring was still a whole lot easier. So maybe green regulation rate goes slightly down out there in the PM wave, but the ball's going to be traveling further, and these guys are going to have shorter clubs into the greens, which is, in my opinion, going to more than make up for that. It did yesterday for sure, right? It was a 2-shot difference. So I don't think it's a hot take for me to say that. So in terms of finding the pairings for this, I think we're just going to go with these two because a lot of these guys they have on there, the fact that they're in that PM wave scares me off of a fade in a lot of different cases. I truly think that it's going to be a pretty drastic change when it comes to those conditions. If that's the case, scoring average might be 71, 70 and a half. You're asking these guys to have a worse than average round. Most guys on here, not every guy on here, but I say a vast majority of the guys that we have on here are players that are better than your PGA Tour average. So, you know what? I've seen enough. We're going to go with these two together. We're just going to take them together, put them in for, okay, let's do 75 on this one, I guess. 2.5x payout. Sorry, 2.75x payout, I should say, a little bit better than that 2.5x. Is what we'll enter over here for the second live stream slip. Now, I'm going to be getting out on the golf course in probably like 2 hours. Next hour and a half or so, I'm going to be tracking some of these conditions. If you guys want all the other slips that I'm going to be entering, which I'll be looking at Underdog here in a second when I can log on in. I'll be also looking at Prize Picks right after we get even more data to work with. Make sure to check out my Patreon page for all of that. Of course, link in the description to go out there and join that, to give you guys insight into exactly what I'm betting, but not only the exposure that I'm getting to, but also the reasoning behind it, right? I give you guys all the projections, all the stats behind why I'm getting to my plays. And as you can tell here in the live stream, I'm pretty picky about what I get to, right? Like I only try and find the best value that I possibly can. And some slates, there'll only be like 2, maybe 3 slips I go out there and enter. Some slates, it's 7 to 8 or even more than that, right? Depending on the kind of value that we have available. And, depending on how these scoring averages shake out over the next hour or so, there could be even more that ends up opening up. So just something to keep an eye on out there. And the other thing I wanted to look at on here were some matchups maybe for that PM wave. And we're going back to the round 1 stats over here. If we're looking at some of the guys that are going off late today, like a Will Zalatoris, he'd be the kind of guy that I'd be looking for in like a 3-ball matchup, right? Trying to play him versus maybe some guys that were struggling with their ball striking. I don't hate the idea whatsoever of looking for a Russell Henley in some of those matchups. He had a really good tee to green day, but lost over 2.5 strokes putting. Those kind of players that are going off later, odds depending, could be really good looks for that. So speaking of, I'm actually going to go over here to the matchups. We're going to see what we can find for the 3 balls on those players. Let's see. So we want this one, right? Yeah, round 3 balls. So we're looking for the first one was, let me remind myself. Henley, and then who was the other one? I knew Henley. It was Zalatoris is the other one we want to double check on. So good old Willie Z. Who is he playing against? So Will Zalatoris. Why is it not bringing us to the actual spot where Willie Z's teeing off? Oh my God. There he is. Dude, I hate the Control F on Mac. It's not nearly as powerful as the one on PC. I'm just used to it taking me exactly to where I need to go. So Zalatoris is going against Fitzy and Thigala, who, by the way, I think that, he should be the favorite because of how he played round number 1. But this is clearly incorporating how they played for yesterday, because Matty Fitz, Thigala both shot way, way over par. Both were lost across the board. In fact, you take a look at the shots gained metrics for those two, they pretty much lost in every category. So you can see Fitzpatrick, right, only gained around the green. Thigala, he gained to the 2 ball striking categories, but he lost over there with the 2 short game. So yeah, I'd say Thigala probably has a better chance to go out there and knock off a Willie Z here. But at plus 140, I'm not against playing him just because his stat profile was so much better than what you had with those other 2 players. Now let's find Russell Henley. God, gotta love the control F on Mac. It just doesn't do shit. You have Henley versus Lowry and Hovland. Lowry's a tough one because Lowry also hit the ball well. Yeah, so if I was going to bet these, I'd probably go with the Willie Z one as of right now, just because I'm a lot more scared of Lowry than I am of guys like a Fitzpatrick or Thigala down there in that other matchup. So yeah, let's go with that one. And then maybe we can find like a matchup with Henley that's like a head-to-head that could be better. Let's see. So I guess that one's not the best one. Let's see. Do we have ones here? So you got Henley versus Lowry, then Henley versus Victor. I mean, minus 185 juice just really isn't even worth going after. Then what's minus 125 versus Lowry? I seem to agree with that one. Yeah, so unfortunate, but the odds are going to keep us off of a guy like Russell Henley. Let me actually just sort this by ball striking instead of just over there in approach. So let's sort this by shots gained ball striking and try and find some PM wave players. A lot of these guys, by the way, are AM wave just because, yesterday the PM was so much easier than what you had for the AM wave. Let's see. I'm not sure if Tom Kim's going off later. I guess let's just double check. Nah, so he's already on the golf course. So yeah, not the best person to go out there and track. I mean, I'm not going to lie, that Will Zalatoris one, he's got the best shots gained profile out of anyone up here towards the top end of the board. Is probably the best one. Now we can look at Wyndham Clark. Wyndham Clark, by the way, also a pretty decent stat profile. I wouldn't be against trying to find him for a matchup. He gained to the 2 ball striking categories, but lost short game. And if you know anything about Wyndham Clark, you know how surprising that is, right? Because of how stout the short game typically is for him. So let's see who he's matched up against in these 3 balls. Let's see. Oh, control F just not working. Things you love to see. So it's Wyndham versus Jordan and Danny Walker. So okay, it's not a head-to-head, but Danny Walker, let's be honest, right? He's not as much of a threat as some of these other players can be. And then it's Windy C versus Jordan, who, by the way, I'm a huge Jordan Spieth guy. So, if I'm talking shit about him, there's a good reason for it. Jordan gained 4 strokes around the green yesterday. He chipped in twice for eagle. So if you think that's going to happen again and he can sustain that for 4 rounds, you're crazy, right? He wasn't that good in the other different categories. So yeah, these will be the 2 3 balls that we take. It'll be this Windy C at plus 125, this Bulls Zalatoris at plus 140, which I'm going to go ahead and see what I can get on Hard Rock Bet right now. Let's see what we can get. Oh, I have a few texts from people. One second, guys. Yeah, I need to let in someone into my house right now for cat sitting. So give me 1 second. I can remote open the door, which is kind of cool. But I've got to do that. I didn't realize that they were coming a little bit early today out there for their visit. Goodness gracious. Ugh. All right, so unlocked. Now I'm just going to let them know. It's crazy what we can do with technologies these days. All right. My apologies on that. And let's see if I can find these bets over there at Hard Rock now. Hey, at least I know that she's taking care of my cats, right? She's actually doing her job. That's good. It'd be a shame if she wasn't. I had to find someone else. Let's see. So there's the Players Championship. Let's go over here to matchups. Let me see what I can get on these. So I'm hoping that we have the same, if not better, odds available on these two. So I've got Will Zalatoris at only plus 130. So kind of unfortunate that one, the odds aren't as great. Let's see what we can find on this Wyndham Clark one, though, right? So it's Clark versus, you also have that Slapdick in there as well. Oh, there's so many matchups on here. It's hard to find them. They actually might not have this one on here. I just went through all of them. It doesn't look like they have the one that Wyndham Clark posted. Maybe because you have that laid out into the field, right? They just didn't have them loaded in over here. But yeah, I just went through all the 3 balls that they have on here, and I don't see anything available. So, okay, I guess I'm not entering either one because I can't get the Wyndham Clark one that I want to, and this Will Zalatoris one is worse odds than what we have on these other sites. So, do your line shopping, find the best odds that you possibly can. Which, speaking of, let's go over here to FanDuel just to make sure that there's not anything better that we can find. There's the 3 balls. Let's go Windy C. Windy C is plus 130. So, yeah, you can get slightly better odds if you take it over there in Fanduel. Again, always do your line shopping. Let's look at Zalatoris, too. Zalatoris is plus 140 over here, too. So, that's the same odds across both sites. Again, I can only get plus 130 over there at Hard Rock Bet. So, I'm going to stay away from it, right? I'm going to stick to my principles. I'm not going to force an exposure that I don't need to get to. And then they do have this Russell Henley one over there at plus 130. So, slightly better odds than what you had there on DraftKings. But not enough for me to bite when you have Shane Lowry in that same group. So obviously the Zalatoris, the Clark ones, if you guys can find those sort of numbers, go out there and play them if you guys would wish. But we also have these 2 other slips that we took over there in Prize Picks that you can enter. For everything else, and I'm going to be entering throughout the morning, make sure to check out the Patreon page for all of that. And before we leave, just one last look over here at the scoring, which, it still looks over par. Yeah, 1.14 over par. I don't think it's going to be that bad when it's all said and done, but yeah, conditions playing out pretty much exactly what I would have hoped for. So it's see if we can make it a good day, get out to the profit over there in our exposure. I'll see if there's any last second questions. Looks like we're good over there from that angle. Make sure to stop on by for all the content throughout the week, by the way. Rounds 3 and 4 will be doing the same things. Round 3 and 4 showdown will be over there on the Ship It Nation channel. And then for betting in the prop side of things, it'll be over here as well. Now, I'm not 100% sure on the timing. I may try and squeeze in the live stream tonight out there for round 3. But if not, it'll be another early morning live stream. So if you guys enjoyed sipping on some coffee, getting into all the action for today, we'll be doing the same thing potentially for the next few days. But until then, I appreciate you guys, all your support here on the channel. Hopefully it goes well over there with your exposure. Smash that like button if you haven't already, and I'll see you guys a little bit later on.